It's Monday, September 17th, and I'm your host, Paula Hersey. On today's show, we take a deep dive into Dispatch 101 at the Barnstable Police Department, learn how to better prepare for an emergency, and get ready for parking day. Here's some news you can use. Barnstable town officials hosted a briefing last week with residents of the Blish Point neighborhood regarding their plans for flood-resistant efforts in the area. Officials indicated it is unlikely that any major infrastructure improvements can be completed before this winter due to time-consuming permitting and construction processes. In the meantime, the town is at work implementing design, permitting, and construction plans for improvements for flood mitigation, with Town Manager Mark Corral expected to request additional funding at this week's Town Council meeting. The state has already approved $1.5 million in funding infrastructure improvements, which will be available in 2019. Barnstable's DPW will also be conducting monthly inspections of the catch basins in the neighborhood to ensure that they are not clogged. A more permanent solution is expected to be delivered to the town by the engineering firm, the Woods Hole Group, sometime this fall. Where does your call go when you dial 911? Who are the operators who answer your call? We take a deep dive into emergency dispatch with Lt Mark Corral, who oversees this important department for the Barnstable Police. He helps us understand how merging the police and Hyannis Fire Dispatch keeps our community safe. With me today, Lt Mark Corral, who is the supervisor for dispatch at Barnstable Police Department. We are changing over to a new system combined with Hyannis Fire. Mark, welcome.
Thank you. Good morning, Paula.
So this is a big deal. Lots of moving parts, as we said. So give us just a little overview of what the role of dispatch is in fire and police.
So in the first responder world, the dispatcher is really almost like the pre-first responder. They're not just taking the phone call and sending a car. They're asking a lot of important questions that dial in the resources that we need to send to that call so that we can get the best care or the best police response as quick as possible. So it really has changed from 20, 30 years ago or even 10 years ago, where it just might have been a police officer answering the phone and sending the guys out, or a firefighter answering the phone. It's really now a profession where the people that work in there are highly trained professionals, and a lot goes into the first day they take that call and get those resources out. Okay, so right now you're currently changing or adding staff. Tell us a little bit about how you're staffing this dispatch center. Okay, so on a day-to-day basis at the police department, and just leaving the merger out of it for a minute with Hyannis Fire, we typically have 3 police officers or dispatchers that work during the day shift, 3 during the evening shift, and at least 2 during the midnight shift hours. So that would be just strictly the person manning each console. We also have a supervisor that manages the station that's in close contact with them as well and can help out in there as well. Okay. So the room is staffed pretty heavily for the call volume that we end up doing. Okay, and these are professional people. They go through training and some other kind of things to do to become this dispatcher. Like you said, it's just not somebody sitting in a chair answering the phone and say, okay, we'll send a car. Absolutely. So our new program that we just put in place, it's basically we're moving to a full professional civilian dispatch with help from the police when needed and police oversight. But the training involved now, these new dispatchers that we just put on went to a 5-week academy up in Middleborough that the state puts on. Okay. So there they get most of the basics that they need. They come home, do another 2 weeks, what we call in-house, where they're getting up on CPR and some emergency medical dispatch certifications. And then after that, they finally hit the desk, and they're in a one-on-one training anywhere from like 4 to 8 weeks before they're really all the way on their own. So it's about, somewhere in the neighborhood of 3 months, or could be a little less or a little longer depending on the progress. What are some of the skills that these dispatchers need to perform this job? It's kind of a tough one when you're doing like an interview to determine who's going to be really great at it. But we're finding that a lot of the younger millennials that are growing up managing their phone and 10 apps at once and doing school and listening to their folks are just quick. And that quickness and just having really good common sense and a good basic high school or college education, you put it all together, and some of the best dispatchers are hard to really pick out until they get there. Really? Yeah. That's interesting.
what are some of the kinds of the equipment that you're using? You mentioned the apps as a millennial, but this is kind of high level now. I mean, you're not putting up a map on a paper map and going, all right, well, here's old stage and that kind of stuff. They're using GIS and everything?
Absolutely, absolutely. So we have the latest next-gen 911 system, which I think just about all the state has rolled it out at this point for all the PSAPs. But the GIS mapping that you mentioned is part of that. So when that map comes up, we've got everything now. We've got house numbers, we've got satellite imagery of the homes, and it's the latest stuff available. So that's just 2 of the 7 monitors that each unit is managing at that point. That's directly in front of them. So just the 911 stuff, you got 2 monitors, its own system. That's all managed by the state. Then we have our in-house system, which is 4 different monitors. You can put up to like maybe a dozen different actual windows that a person would be using during a routine shift. And then off to the side, we're now on a fully up-to-date computerized radio system as well. So all this stuff has come about. We did a renovation over the winter, and took us literally from some 1980s era equipment that was still in that room to the latest and greatest stuff available.
Okay, so now we're ready. Let's
Yes.
talk merger. So fire is going to come into the police center dispatch.
Yes.
How did that come about?
It's really like a shotgun wedding, the way this happened. It wasn't really planned out, and something this big, you probably would have looked at it and said, hey, in the next like 3 to 5, we want to do this. But really what happened was with us pushing to get that professionalized staff, and the new fire chief over at Hyannis Fire, Chief Burke, coming in and kind of coming in on the late end of that building construction. Chief McDonald at the time, Chief Burke, myself, and now Chief Sonneman, a few of us all got together and looked at it and said, hey, we think we can do this within the budget year, which is like crazy, due to all the different things that were already in place. The renovation that I was managing was already in progress. The civilian staff had already been approved and was being hired. And then he's looking at it over on his end going, well, all right, we can build a whole dispatch center in our place, but that might be tough to do that and then merge 2 years from now. You're kind of wasting some resources. So we got everything together. We shared some equipment, and they helped us to add 3 more full-time dispatchers to our staff. That allowed us to increase those numbers I mentioned earlier, where we'll now have like 4 on the day shift, 4 on the evenings, and we'll run 3 on midnights.
Wow.
So we're really heavily staffed, and that's where, if you look at it, where the savings come in. We now have, in the past, or as it is today as we speak, you have 1 dispatcher at the fire department, and it's a fireman who just may happen to get the desk that day. If he runs into trouble or needs help, he may be the only one there. When we take over, there'll be 4 people and a supervisor all ready to help when you have those big incidents. So you're getting a ton more staff into the room, able to handle all those bigger incidents. Right.
And some of the incidents that happen, both of you guys respond anyways. So
Absolutely.
by combining this, does that help that ability to work together?
Absolutely. We took a big step back in December, and we cut completely out of the 911 process the step where when you called in on a wireless phone, you would have landed in Middleborough. Okay, that's kind of a big step, and it was a bit of a time waster. So Barnstable PD stepped up and said, we want to be a wireless direct center, which we are now as of December, and that meant us taking on upwards of 11,000 more phone calls. Literally, the phone ring 11,000 more times a year, and us having to ferret out those calls. So now, if you pick up your iPhone, and even if you couldn't talk and you had to hit your emergency 911 button on your phone, the phone rings right into the Barnstable Police Department. And then once we're fully online with this merger, if we were to have a medical emergency right here in this room, I'd make that 1 call, and we would have that ambulance being dispatched probably within 30 seconds of that phone ringing. So
wow.
we are shaving literally minutes between dropping that Middleborough out of that and then dropping the transfers over to the Hyannis Fire Department out of it and doing it all right out of 1 room.
Right. Which can save lives.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Wow, I didn't realize that. Is it a hard switch getting this rollover? I mean, you just came off a night shift. You're looking pretty fresh here, Mark. But I would imagine as supervisor, there's, like you said, a lot of moving parts. Was it hard?
Absolutely. A lot of planning went into this. So it's like for the renovation, it was probably about 12 months of planning, and then we moved into a temporary room. We got all that stuff going. So now most of the software hardware is on the Hyannis Fire side of it, and then it's just joining it in at our end. So we're hoping to go live Monday. with the merger and handling everything, but we still have, even a few days away, we still have some radio issues to work out and some phone issues. So if we have to delay it a couple days, no big deal. It's not the end of the world. We want to make sure we have it right. And then when we do flip that switch, it's literally, we'll keep it staffed on both ends and we'll do some testing all throughout the day shift. But really it will be in the morning the old way and in the afternoon the new way. Yeah.
That's kind of cool.
Yeah.
Will a resident know that this switch has happened? I mean, in the past, you know, we've gotten that kind of like little creepy recording. Hi, you've reached the Barnstable Police Department. You're going to be recorded and that kind of stuff. Will they know that they've called one central place?
Well, if you dial 911, it's streamlined we actually have a recorded greeting. So if you called and I happen to be sitting at that desk, it would just say 911, this line is recorded, where is your emergency?
Okay.
There is no, this is the Barnstable Police, or we're answering for Hyannis Fire. It's just that one question. And if someone's in distress and they could only say 3 words, the most important thing, and it'll be good for your people that are watching, is where they are.
Okay.
If we know what's wrong, that's helpful too, but if it's literally an intruder's in the home or they're having chest pain and they're down to just a couple of breaths, knowing where they are is the most important thing that we're gonna want from them. That's why we open with that question.
Okay, so where are you is the most important question.
Absolutely. Yep.
And then let's just come back to cell phones just for a second. As you know, more people are losing their landline. They're not renewing it for whatever reason. The phone itself, is that going to be part of this mix where you'll be able to pick up that coordinates of the phone where somebody is if they can't tell you where they are?
Absolutely. The newest next-gen 911 system that we're on now is pretty accurate, but it has a lot of variations. It varies with carrier, it varies with weather, it varies with, I would imagine us being in the basement here, a lot different than if we were outside. So when we were testing that, we would call 911 right in the dispatch center itself, and it would give us, just like if anyone's ever used the Find My iPhone app, it gives you like a circle.
Sure.
And on ours, it's much more enhanced. It'll say the accuracy is 92% that the person is within 48 meters of this dot. So we'll know. And then I walk outside of the police station in the front parking lot, and that shrinks right down to 6 meters. So we don't want people to depend on that, knowing where they are, but the technology is very, very good that in good conditions, we're generally going to know right where they are so that we can send help very quickly.
You excited to have the project come to completion?
Yeah, it's nice. If hardware-wise in the room, we've come a long way, and then now the end result being that someone can dial on their phone 911 on a cell phone and have an ambulance going as quick as possible is really the ultimate goal. And there is no quicker service anywhere in Massachusetts. If you're within the town of Barnstable, and especially within the village of Hyannis, it's one-stop shopping. You're talking to one person. In the past, go back 6 months, and you called right now, you might talk to someone in Middleborough, then you might talk to me, then I'd kick you over to Hyannis Fire, and then it would get kicked back to me, and I might give you the CPR instructions, a police officer at the Barnstable Police Department. So it really wasn't a great system. And now, this is as good as it gets in this state, and we're doing it right here.
Fantastic work, Lieutenant.
Thank you.
Thank you. Join us tomorrow as we take you inside the Barnstable Police Department's Dispatch Center to get an up-close and personal look at how it all works. Speaking of emergencies, COM Fire Chief Michael Wynn has some tips to help keep you and your loved ones safe during a disaster. Do you have a plan? Parking Day is right around the corner, an event that started in 2005 and now has grown.
The best advice we have is to be aware, and I know it sounds cliche in Awareness Week, but really pay attention to what's coming as far as weather reports, messages from your elected leaders, and public safety messages from the departments that respond. These folks take a great deal of time, energy, and hard work in making sure we get the best, most accurate, up-to-date information out to our residents and our guests, and it's important for you to pay attention to what those messages say or recommend. When we think about preparedness, the first thing I would recommend is if you live in our district, you should know your zone, and knowing your zone means where are you if there's a flood. Those maps are on our website, they're on the MEMA website, they're available for everyone to see and look at and really consider what would happen to where you live if we were to have a hurricane such as the one bearing down on the Carolinas and the Virginia coast? What would that mean? And it's easy to see online. Know your zone is a very important component. The next component I would think about is the ability to be self-sufficient. If we have a major weather emergency and you have to be self-reliant, that's going to require you to prepare for 3 to 4 days of fresh water, food, and have a contact off Cape that can check in on you in the case communication systems go down. So you have some way of communicating, if you can, with someone off Cape who could relay messages to us. If folks are asked to evacuate, it's not because we want to hinder you or burden you. It's because we may not be able to respond to your location should there be an emergency. Evacuation notices are taken very seriously. They can really only be offered by the governor. And if someone says it's time to evacuate, it's because it's time to evacuate. We take that very seriously. Be self-sufficient for 3 days. Have food, water. Make sure your pets are taken care of. Make sure you have meds ready to cover you if you have any prescription issues. And just be ready to be self-reliant. We may not be able to help. In the event of a Category 2 or 3 hurricane, the wind is going to limit our ability to respond because it simply won't be safe to put our responders on the road. We will take every response on a risk-based assessment, and there may be times where, due to weather, water, flood heights, street closings, we may not be able to get out and effect aid if requested. That's a two-way street, so if you hear of the wind and you hear of the water, that also means you shouldn't be out on the road, or you should be in a safe place as well. The biggest component is, honestly, is to be aware and to listen to the messages that are coming out from the agencies that are charged with protecting you. We offer a great deal of hurricane preparedness resources on our website, which would be www.calmfiredistrict.com. In addition, you can go to the MEMA website, the Massachusetts Emergency Management website. They have a great deal of information specifically to Awareness Week, but also those Know Your Zone flood maps, tips for preparing self-sustainment for 3 days, and the things to consider for your family and your pets. So MEMA.gov has a lot. Remember that children are going to be listening to everything you're hearing on the TV. Even my 3-year-old son today at home was asking me about Hurricane Florence and if it was coming to Cape Cod. Children are very perceptive, and they know exactly what's going on because they hear the same messages that you hear. It's important to comfort your children and let them know that we'll take care of them the best we can, and have them be prepared for a bug out if necessary. The elderly are our greatest concern, whether it's a resident who lives at home who's on oxygen at home or requires a lot of prescription medications. Those folks need to be really looked at as a at-risk population for us as a community. We have shelters available here in the town of Barnstable and on Cape Cod, but really the elderly need to have the ability to have someone help them to be sustainable if something goes bad with a storm. We ask neighbors to check on their elderly neighbors. We ask family to check on their elderly family members. And just remember, there may be times we just simply cannot get to you because of the conditions of the storm.
The International Parking Day event is this Friday, September 21st in Hyannis. The mission of Parking Day is to call attention to the need for more urban open space to generate critical debate around how public space is created and allocated, and to improve the quality of urban human habitat, at least until the meter runs out. Parking Supervisor and Transportation Program Coordinator for the town of Barnstable, Mona Salmonte, joins us in studio to highlight this year's activities on Main Street. Parking Day is right around the corner, an event that started in 2005 and now has grown internationally. With me today, Mona Salmonte. I knew I was going to mess that up.
Perfect.
You are the Parking Program and Transportation Coordinator for the town of Barnstable.
Yes.
And you have all the details. This is fascinating to me. You're going to take over parking spaces on Main Street, aren't you?
Yes, we are. Yes, we actually, the town of Barnstable celebrated Parking Day for the first time last year down at Bismore Park, and we occupied 3 spaces down there. And this year we're moving the event to Main Street. We're so excited, and we're going to be occupying 12 spaces along Main Street from the high 300 block down to around the high 400, 500 block. So
let's give some context to what this is all about, this started in San Francisco?
It did. It started back in 2005. A architectural and design firm, their name is Rebar, decided that they wanted to creatively reprogram and reutilize asphalt, but basically parking spaces. And so they created what they termed parklets. And and really what parklets are any type of recreation, area for social exchange, or offer educational, informational discourse. So that's grown, and it now is an international global event, and it's just celebrated everywhere on the third Friday in September of each year. So this year it's September 21st, 2018, from 2 to 5 p.m.
And that's Main Street, approximately from the 300 block down through the 400 or 500 block area.
Correct.
And it fascinates me that asphalt, the name parklets is just too cute, but repurposing things that people consider to be urban to places that people can congregate, they can come, they can learn things about either businesses or organizations that are on Main Street, or other organizations that really maybe you wouldn't think that would have that opportunity. They would just take up a parking space and it would be this place where you could come and do something.
Correct, exactly.
So let's talk a little bit about who's going to be there.
We have a number of town departments. We have a number of partners. Barnstable Police Department will be joining us. The town clerk is going to have a registration table there for voter registration, which I'm really excited about. The Chamber of Commerce will have 3 spaces, and they will be talking and offering information and activities around the visitor center, the chamber itself, as well as their Keep Hyannis Beautiful program initiative. So CCRTA, the airport, parking will be there as well. Parking will have a Plinko game to play with prizes and an opportunity to win a free parking pass. And we'll also have information on handicap parking, how to apply for a placard, and some refresher information on rules of the road. So to enhance our Park Happy experience here in Barnstable. So let's see, Sturgis East, students from their environmental club will be putting on some display. I'm so excited about seeing that. Arts Barnstable will be there, BID, the JFK. Did I mention the airport?
The airport, they love coming to events like this because, you know, we're a triple modality town. You know, I mean,
Right.
we have ferries, we have trains, and we have the airport.
Yes, we are such a transportation hub. There
Right.
is no doubt about that.
That's
So,
great. And what does Park Happy as the entity here in Barnstable, as well as yourself, what do you hope to gain from this type of event?
I think just to reach out to people and to let them know that there are a lot of services that we don't even know about. There's a lot of services going on in the background that help enhance the residents' life experience here, as well as the visitor experience here. And parking, as we all know, can be very challenging. And so parking has worked towards a very positive movement of education and more social interaction and more customer service. So our parking pros also offer a wealth of information about activities and services and fun things to do, cultural, you know, just many things for our visitors, as well as our residents that oftentimes don't know, you know. So,
Well, there's a lot of things that residents, encounter on some of these types of events that are like, oh, I had no idea.
right, exactly, absolutely. Arts Barnstable, they'll be offering many different aspects of different disciplines of art, so that should be really exciting.
That's great. And what I really like about an event like this is that it brings people together. Parking can sometimes be contentious.
Yes.
Are there enough spaces? Are there too many spaces? Is there too much asphalt? Not enough asphalt? But really what it comes down to is that there's designated areas for folks to park, but that can be repurposed.
Correct. Exactly. Absolutely. Absolutely.
That's fantastic. Anything else you want folks to know? So it's September 21st.
First, yes.
2 to 5 p.m.
Yes, it's on Main Street, and let's just hope for great weather and a great turnout, and all of the partners and departments will be there to just offer a wonderful experience.
That's fantastic. Thanks so much, Mona.
You're very welcome. Thank you for having me here today.
You're welcome.
Okay.
Here's a look at our community calendar. Howe presents Wellness Wednesday at the Centerville Library on Wednesday, September 19th in the Coyle Community Room. The theme for the evening is Mindful Wellness. David Sorrow, founder of Howe, will be speaking with a focus on kindness and compassion along with mindful breathing. Learn how to integrate mindful wellness into your life. Local singer Alicia Matheson will be singing to bring peace and joy to the evening. 6:30 p.m., social time with healthy smoothies. Formal program begins at 7 p.m. There is no charge for Wellness Wednesdays. Here's a look at this week's schedule for boards, commissions, and committees. I'm Paula Hersey, and thank you for watching Barnstable Today.